This episode of the Vampire Lestat did not go the way I thought it was going to go, but I think it went where it needed to based on the ending of episode 6. Welcome back, everyone. We're here today to talk about the final episode of the Vampire Lestat. That's right, we're talking about the finale. This is titled, appropriately, The Failures. Now, before we get into this, I want to know, who is your favorite character of this season? Let me know down in the comments below and let me know why you love them, because I think this episode really does break down, for me, what it is that connects me to Lestat as we explore and kind of wrap up this character deep dive. Because I think that's what this season was really about, getting into who Lestat is and why he is the way he is. When it comes to any of these characters in this season, whether we're talking about Lestat or Louis or Daniel or Armand or even Gabriella, what we are examining is the why behind these people. And so if Interview with the Vampire is a self-told self-reflection on what makes Louis tick, this is really a shattering, a breaking of everything that makes Lestat up. So we're seeing these different facets of the character as we go through. And I think that is why, although this episode went somewhere that I wasn't expecting, it definitely gave me what the ending of the book feels like. With everything we've been building up this season, I really felt that the finale was going to give us the concert. That big moment when Lestat takes the stage and everything goes crazy. Instead, the show decides to end right before that moment and shows us the aftermath, but it doesn't get into the concert itself. I do think we will be getting there, but the finale is more focused on kind of dotting the I's and crossing the T's of everything we've been establishing with these characters. I reacted to this episode, and at the end of it, I felt very conflicted because there is a hate that I have for the fact that we don't get to see the concert. But I also love that we don't see that, because the concert is very Queen of the Damned. That is part of that book. It's not really part of the Vampire Lestat. However, Lestat returning to civilization and us exploring the character throughout his history and him making that choice to join back in on life and really get into everything, to fully jump into living and see what that means. That is what Lestat is about. And throughout the course of the novel, you're going through his history, you're going through his life and finding out what has brought him to this moment in a similar way to what we do with the show. And while it is only 7 episodes, and yeah, I do wish it was longer. I do wish that there were a few more moments in there, which I will talk about in my full review for this season more. I think we did a good job with this being the summary of everything that we've seen. Most of the episode, we are focused on 2 major characters. One of those being Louis, well, I guess Louis and Armand, and another one being Lestat. And Lestat is having a conversation with these constructs in his mind, potentially as part of his way of crossing over. Potentially it is a dream that he's having as he is inching closer and closer to that moment of death. He is forced to reflect on everything that's brought him to this point and what other people think of him. And I think it also is showing us what Lestat thinks of himself. After all, if you want to examine this through the lens of what Lestat labels this as initially, a dream, that he is dreaming this, that it is not real, that it's not really happening, then if he is at a table with other versions of himself initially, that transforms into a table of everyone that he's made. It's him taking stock of everything that has led up to this moment in his life and examining it through the lens of other people, but really it's him, right? This is him coming to terms with all of the ways that he's failed in his life. And I think that's why I really love this character, to be honest with you. I think I never thought about this, and this is something that I love about the Vampire Lestat, because it's a show that provides a different lens to some of these characters, some of these moments some of these events that I just hadn't thought about before. But I do think it is supported through the text, especially when we get into some subtextual stuff in Anne Rice's work. And of course, the subtext is always going to be dependent on how you see things. But for me, there is stuff here that I feel goes even deeper than some of the books, which I think is cool. And some people probably aren't going to like that because they're going to see it as a sort of rewrite. But some people will feel that it aligns with their own ideas of who these people are. For me, Lestat has always been this character who can do anything. But I think an important thing for us to acknowledge with that is that in order for you to be able to do everything or anything, you also have to come up against great adversity, great odds, and struggle to get stuff done. There are times when you're going to hit that wall because that's how you get to a place where you can do anything. It's like Lestat says, if I failed, it's because I tried something, which is more than any of these other people that are here can say, which is, he immediately says, okay, that's a bit dramatic. That's not really true. And I agree. I don't think that's really true. But it is him coming to terms with the fact that he's failed time and time again. And what does that mean? And why is that important? And as someone who struggles in my own life to see myself as someone of value, who maybe goes out of my way at times to feel like there is meaning in life, I understand that need to put yourself out there, to take the risks, to make it feel as though you matter. Because the reality is we are all just this little speck of dust in the universe. We don't really affect people in the way that we think. And Lestat is the type of character that flip-flops between those two versions. The version of him that is Lelio, that is center stage, that everyone loves, and the version of him that is a monster, that he doesn't love. And therefore, how can anyone ever love him? Man, it's heavy, and I fully relate with that. I struggle with those things as well. So when it comes to why Lestat is my favorite character, I think they beautifully summed it up in this episode. On the other side of things, we of course have everything that's been going on with Armand, which we've been laying the groundwork for this season. And I loved all of that. I thought they did a great job with establishing Armand wanting that closure and seeking that forgiveness. And in a way, I think it comes from Armand not being able to forgive himself for the things he's done, but also not wanting to take responsibility for the things that he's done. And I like how with Louis and Armand, the closure we get in this finale feels similar to the closure that we get with these characters at the end of Interview with a Vampire, the novel. But it goes even deeper than that, I would say. Because at the end of Interview with a Vampire, the book, which I recently just did a reread of over on my Patreon for my book club, so stay tuned because I'll have another review of that book coming to the channel soon. At the end of that book, what Louis says is that he says that when Claudia was gone, his heart was cut off. He became cold. The moment actually really that he transformed Madeline into a vampire, which is what happens in the book. It's not Armand, it's Louis that does that. But Louis that does that because Armand controls his mind and makes him do that, even though Louis is not aware of Armand's influence in that moment. When that happens, Louis dies inside and he becomes cold and he becomes cut off. And he actually says, I don't care about really what happened to Claudia. I've never been upset with you. So when Armand reveals that he had a hand in that potentially, did he or didn't he? He's kind of just saying it to stir up some emotion, some passion in Louis that he misses to see in him. And yet Louis gives him nothing because he says, I can't. I'm already gone. I've already become this hard, cold thing because I feel nothing. In this version of the story, in the Vampire Lestat, in the finale, instead, what we get from Louis is this revelation that he's cold to Armand because he never forgave Armand. And I think that is probably more true to what Louis is going through. I think in Interview with the Vampire, the cool thing about that book is that there's what Louis tells us and then there's the truth. And there are times when Louis himself is in denial of his own emotions and his own feelings. And you can pick up on that if you're reading between the lines in the book. Granted, maybe not everybody sees the book that way. Obviously, all art is interpretive and everyone is entitled to their own interpretation. But that's how I've always felt about that book. And going back through it, I really saw a lot of those moments. So seeing something like that acknowledged in this show, in the Vampire Lestat, I think is really cool. I think a lot of the stuff we did with Louis this season, and even the stuff that we've done with Armand, overall, I like it. I wasn't sure how I felt about Armand going full goblin mode, but now I see why that's important to the character. And this idea of how Louis has been going through so much and it's all been Louis, 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 to the point that Armand's past, we haven't really delved into. And Louis even acknowledges, you know, we never talked about what happened to you when you were Arun. And I think that's really sad and really heartbreaking that we have these two people that have been in a relationship and Armand is really resentful because he feels like he gave everything to this person. And what does he have to show for it? And sure, did he manipulate this person? Yes. Did he do bad things? Yes. But is it because he in his life has been in a place where he didn't have control? And we're really examining what these characters have been through to turn them into what they are. And it's almost like they all become their own monster. So whatever they're trying to escape, they can never fully get away from it. And maybe that's the curse of immortality. It's the same thing with Lestat. We finally went back to the witches, and I'm so glad that we did that. And seeing that intercut with, as Gabriella is making Lestat watch this horrible thing when he's younger, he is making Claudia watch this horrible thing after shortly making her into a vampire, and she is dealing with her connection to humans and all of the terrible things she can do. She doesn't want to be awful, but he's making her watch what you can become. And this is why you need to listen to me. This is why you need to do what I'm telling you to do. And of course, that is being confirmed as being canon in the story. So we know Lestat did that now because we see that in his own memory, in his own mind. Just as Gabriella is making him watch because she wants him to watch what happened to the witches so that he will run away, so that he will get out of this place that she finds to be terrible. It's a warning, just as Lestat is trying to warn Claudia. And so this idea of becoming the thing that you don't want to be, a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy that you cannot escape, it's so heartbreaking, and yet it is also part of what people need to see in themselves in order to progress and move forward. And I love the idea of immortality being sort of a cycle that you're trapped in, that you find it hard to break. And Lestat, I think, is always trying to fight against it and is always trying to break the cycle. But the reality is he is stuck as well. So why he keeps failing and why he keeps making the same mistakes and sort of becoming this monster is because he can't see another way out. And yet part of him taking the risks, I think, is him trying to break the cycle. So I love that. I love that the idea of this season as well is very cyclical, which we'll talk more about in the full season review when I get there. Overall, I thought it was a really beautiful episode, and I want to go back and even comb through it because there's so much going on. It's so dense. And that might be the only negative to it somewhat, is that I think it does demand a few rewatches for you to fully comprehend everything that's happening. But at the same time, I do love that this is a show that isn't afraid to go fast, to go hard, and to be dense. And it trusts its audience to comb through everything and be able to keep up with what's going on. And the other thing about Lestat is that it does kind of drop you in at the beginning doing that, right? Everything is very fast-paced. So overall, I loved it. I thought it was a beautiful episode exploring characters that I love in ways that I think are unique but still speak to the original text. And I cannot wait to go back through and even rewatch this season. I can't wait to just go back through and watch all of this because Interview with the Vampire Season 1 and Season 2 were amazing. And the Vampire Lestat was amazing too. All in all, it's been great. Anyways, that's all I really have for this one. I also just wanted to acknowledge, I'm not at home. I'm not in my studio. I'm actually on location traveling because I'm in California and I'm going to be heading to San Diego Comic-Con in a few days. So I'm currently right now in a hotel room recording this for you guys, where I'll be recording some more content. So just in case you were wondering, but stay tuned. We'll have some news coverage coming up for San Diego Comic-Con while I'm there. There'll also be vlogs that I'm going to be putting up on a brand new vlog channel. And I will still have reactions going up on my reaction channel, which will be filmed, probably some of them in this room. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch this video. Let me know your thoughts on this finale down in the comments below. I'll see you down there. And until next time, friends, stay nerdy. Bye. And if you love when I talk about the Vampire Chronicles, the Immortal Universe, you need to check out more of that right over here.